Okay, today we're going to be working on the Fables Remixed project for iPad. This builds on our skills learned in the Name Game and the Found Drum Sounds projects. So first thing we're going to do is go to the website, and this is for our final here. We're going to go and click where it says click here. This will take us to our Google Drive and has all the information that we need for this project. We're going to go ahead and let's see, go and click on the story, number 3, the hare and the tortoise. This will open this up in Docs. Here's the thing is that we need to remember that we obviously had to download GarageBand, Google Drive, Google Docs, and make sure you log in first. Otherwise, you won't be able to access any of this stuff. Remember that while we're in here doing this project, there is an undo arrow in GarageBand, and of course we can double click on the home button on the iPad, and then that'll let us choose whatever app or wherever we want to go and navigate. So like I said, we're going to open up the story. Now we have that open in Docs. We're now going to open GarageBand. There it is. And we're going to add a new project. Click on the plus on the upper right-hand corner. We're going to select the audio recorder, which is usually the first one, and then in the bottom left, select voice. First thing we're going to do is turn off the metronome in the upper right-hand corner. It's the blue icon of a metronome. And we are going to change the length of the section A to 64 measures. The default is they give you 8 measures, and unfortunately when you reach the 8 measures, it's going to kick you back to the beginning again. So to kind of go around this, we'll click the plus in the upper right hand corner, and in the A section we're going to click where it says 8 bars, and then you can actually swipe up, get you to 64 a little quicker. All right, and then you can just click out of that, and you can see we've added 64 measures there. Should be plenty enough for the dialogue and the narration that we're going to be doing. It would be best if you record with earbuds and a mic just to kind of control your sound a little bit. But if not, we can use the built-in microphone, which is by the camera. Yes, I'm checking. I believe it's by the camera. It's the teeny little dot on the top side of the iPad by the camera. And that's our microphone. So we're going to go ahead, and as I'm talking here, you can see as I get closer, the green on the left, the in, is getting higher or lower. We don't want to get into the red range because that means we're clipping. We want to try to keep about 2 inches from the microphone and use a consistent volume level, speak clearly and slowly. You're going to really want to practice the story a couple times because, well, you'll see it's a little chunky. We'll just say chunky for lack of a better word. We're going to use the split screen option on iPad to read the story while we're recording. So we're going to swipe up. A little tab opens up. And then we have access to Docs. So look for the Docs icon right there. We're going to click it. We're going to hold it and drag it to the right. And then we can actually see the story. So you have to open this up. And again, like I said, you have to log in first. And the story is already open, so now you can do the split screen option, which is great. You should be able to scroll as you're recording. So at the looking at the GarageBand screen, you're going to click on the red record button, and let's see, you're going to record the whole thing nonstop. The red button will record you, and then there'll be a square to stop it. So let's give this a go. It's going to count you in here. A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow. "Do you ever get anywhere?" he asked with a mocking laugh. "Yes," replied the tortoise, "and I get there sooner than you think. I'll run you a race and prove it." The hare was much amused at the idea of running a race with the tortoise. But for the fun of the thing, he agreed. So the fox, who had consented to act as judge, marked the distance and started the runners off. The hare was soon far out of sight, and to make the tortoise feel very deeply how ridiculous it was for him to try to race with a hare, he lay down beside the course to take a nap until the tortoise should catch up. The tortoise, meanwhile, kept going slowly but steadily, and after a time passed the place where the hare was sleeping. But the hare slept on very peacefully. And when he at last did wake up, the tortoise was near the goal. The hare now ran his swiftest, but he could not overtake the tortoise in time. All right. So you can see there's numbers at the top there of the iPad, and you can see we've recorded up to about measure 29. So if you got a good take, that's great. Otherwise, you can hit that back arrow and try it again. If you make some mistakes, no worries. We can go through and kind of cut those parts out. That's actually what we're going to do next. We're going to edit the dialogue and the narration parts and kind of add some new tracks there. So if we're done with that, there's a little tab on the top here of this Google Docs, and we should be able to just swipe it to the right. And then we are going to switch to track view. It's on the upper left-hand corner, there's 3 buttons. Let's go 1, 2, 3. The third one kind of looks like a couple different little lines there. And we can see what we have recorded, which is great. So we notice we only need, for my version, my speed that I was speaking, I only need about, maybe 33 measures. So what we can actually go do is push the plus in the upper right-hand corner again, and we're going to click 64 bars, and we can swipe down to maybe 33. Let's say 33. Okay. All right, and that's pretty much the length of my narration there. You can use 2 fingers, of course, to zoom in or move around the track if need be on the iPad. We are going to split the track at the beginning and the ending of all the dialogue. We're basically cutting out all the parts of the hare and the tortoise by moving the playhead where the beginning of the dialogue is. We're going to double tap it on the track, select split. We're going to pull those scissors icons down to split it, and we're going to move the playhead to the end of it and then split it again. So let's go ahead and listen back here. We have a rewind button. We're going to push play.
A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow. Do you ever get anywhere?
So that's the first dialogue part right there. So you're going to zoom in right there. You can see this is the transients right here about where I start the first hare part.
Do you ever get anywhere? He asked with a mocking laugh.
So we want just the dialogue there. So let's find where he says, do you ever get anywhere? So that's the beginning of it. So we can double click on that track, split, pull the scissors icon down, push play to get to the end of it.
Do you ever get anywhere? He asked with a...
So that's about where it says he asked. Again, we can zoom in if we need to more. You can see the transients get a little smaller right about there. Double click, split, pull down, and you can see now right here is the specific dialogue we're looking for the hare. You'll repeat this process for the tortoise's dialogue as well. There's only 2 parts. It's not quite too much there. So from here, let's see, we are going to add a new track for the hare and the tortoise. So on the bottom left, you're going to click on the plus, again, voice, and we'll go back to the track view again. You can see we've added now a new microphone icon on the left. This is another track. And again, we're going to add by clicking on the plus, voice again. And now we'll go back to track view again, upper left-hand corner. And now we have the first track should be the narration. The second track would be the hare. And the third track would be the tortoise. So now that we've actually cut this part out, we can actually just grab it, hold, and drag down. Now that's fine and all, but we haven't really changed it to where it sounds like, well, the character. Let's listen.
For being so slow. Do you ever get anywhere? He asked with a
I got a little bit off there, so we want to make sure we line these up. If we need to zoom in and move it exactly, there we go. What we're going to do now is double click on that second track and double click on it. And at the top, you can see where it says gray. It's kind of gray. It says studio. We're going to click where it says fun. And look at all those cool options there. So we're going to say, well, for the hare, we'll choose the the chipmunk. And this gets kind of in the vocal range of a squirrel, chipmunk, or I guess, or a hare. We're going to change it just a little bit. We are going to, let's see, what do we choose? Let's move the pitch. If you were to imagine this pitch in the bottom right-hand corner like a clock, we're going to move it by clicking and dragging up to where it's pointing at, which would essentially be 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead and move our playhead. It's at the very top. You can see it's kind of a, there it is. And we're going to move it right back to the beginning of the blue part, which is where we cut out the hair dialogue, the first hair dialogue.
Do you ever get anywhere?
He asked with the...
So you can play with that pitch a little bit, but I think that sounds pretty good. We can go back to track view. And let's listen.
Do you ever get anywhere?
He asked with a mocking laugh. Yes, replied the tortoise.
So that first word, yes, is the tortoise. So let's go ahead and zoom in there. We'll go and double click, split, pull down.
Yes.
Right about there. Double click, split, pull down. And there we have our third part, which is our tortoise. And we'll go and pull that straight down to the third track. Again, you're going to double click on the microphone icon, click on fun, and we're going to go to the monster icon, and we're going to change the size all the way, actually click and drag the size, the bottom left, all the way down to about what we'd call 6 o'clock. If that was a clock, that'd be 6 o'clock. And we're going to move that playhead right to the beginning of that blue. It's not very much because he's just saying yes right now, but let's see if that sounds like a tortoise here.
Yes, replied the tortoise.
That's not bad. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. So we're going to go ahead and pull that back again.
Yes, replied.
We might need a little bit extra space. Let's go back to the track view. And we can actually take this narration and just scoot it over because it seems a little rushed. Let's check that.
Yes, replied the tortoise.
So, seems like we probably could have trimmed a little farther. And all you need to do is click on that track. Actually, it's actually called non-destructive editing, which is great because even though you cut these parts out, the entire recording is all still intact, which is kind of cool.
Yes, replied the tortoise.
So there we have at least the 3 parts. The first part being the dialogue, the second part being the hair, and the third part being the tortoise. Of course, you'd finish out the tortoise editing, and that's that for a third thing, which is edit dialogue. The last thing that we need to do today is go to number 3 in our directions. This is create the background theme music. So we're going to need to create at least 3 loops for the background to kind of get a good vibe here. This is Remixed, so again, you could pick whatever genre or style or vibe you're going for. We'll need at least maybe a drum, some drums, bass, and maybe harmony or melody part. So in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to click on what looks like a little roller coaster. It's a third from the right. That's our loops icon. And inside there, what we're going to be looking at is, well, we have 3 options: instruments, genres, and descriptors. So what you want to do is just kind of what we call audition and check out what kind of different instruments we have. And so we can click on instruments. Maybe you want to select some kind of all drums. Maybe you're going for a particular genre. Maybe you're going for whatever, maybe hip hop or something. And so what's happened now in the bottom right hand corner, it's actually cut down your options. Now we have all these different hip hop beats. Instead of every single drum beat, we're now pulling down those options to just drums and hip hop drum beats. So click on it once to listen. Click on it again to stop. And once you find one, basically what you're going to do is you're going to, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and, I already saved some of my favorites here. So I'm going to go to my drums here that I chose was the Boogie Right beat. You're going to click on it and you're going to pull and drag it all the way to the first measure down below the last track, and it's going to automatically create a track for you. Look at that. And if we zoom out, it already loops it for you the entire length that we did the section A for. We're again going to click on that loop. We're going to find a second and third one. I'll go and do this just to speed things up. I added a bass line. I found a piano part, a little harmony part I liked. And I also found a little bit of a melody. Now for this particular melody, I kind of like this in 2 measured chunks. So what I did is I went and found where the end of the loop is. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to split it. I'm going to delete that. And then I'm just going to put these every 4 measures, I'm sorry. Double click it. We can even copy it and we can move it and paste it. Just so we get a little bit of variety here. Now the last thing we need to do here is, again, this is optional. You do not have to have 4 tracks. You only need 3 tracks. And again, you do not have to split it up, but that's just my preference here. So what we're going to be doing is, the last thing, right in the middle of the left-hand side, you're going to see a teeny little tab right there. And we can drag that over to the right. And then we can actually see the volume levels. So what we want to do is, on all these tracks, we're going to bring this down to at least halfway down, because we really want to hear the story most of all. And this music is supporting the vibe of the overall story. So let's go through and kind of adjust it before we export this to our shared drives, which there is a link on the website and also in the directions on how to export this to your shared drive to turn it in to get full credit. We're gonna hit rewind and let's give it a go.
A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow.
Do you ever get anywhere?
He asked with a mocking laugh.
Yes.
Replied the tortoise.
So I can tell right now that I need to bring that tortoise up. Definitely not loud enough. So I'm going to go and slide that up. And I think the music is still too loud. So I'm going to bring that down to maybe 1/3 of the original volume level. And let's hit rewind and check that again.
A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow.
Do you ever get anywhere?
He asked with a mocking laugh.
Yes.
Replied the tortoise. And I
think we're off to a good start. So I hope you enjoy the Remixed Fables project, and I can't wait to hear yours.